Took pictures that make them look better than they are, so that's good. It's always good when you do that. So Joey put this in the newspaper too. Did you see this?
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I think we are live. Hello and welcome to Saturday Night Live, Election Central here at Town Hall. I'm Pat Riley and Don
My name's Don
McKinnon with
McKinnon,
me, yes.
and we're going to give you the results.
As soon as we have them. It's hot off the press. And we've been doing this for a couple years now,
Yes,
Don?
we have.
Saturday Night Live.
I may go out and vote again.
Yeah.
If the vote
Well,
counts
the
down.
polls just closed at 8 o'clock. Open since 10 o'clock this morning. And we are eagerly awaiting the results.
And we've got some of their paraphernalia or whatever they sent on. Those two gentlemen spent a few dollars this time.
We're talking
Pat.
about the selectmen's
They're
race,
not
which was the
cheap
one.
like you and I. I know you spent $8 one year. That was legendary in the oil business. The price of oil went up 2 pennies because Pat would charge $8 to a campaign. Who were you running against that time? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Doesn't matter. He
Don't.
lost. Whoever he was, he lost.
Oh, goodness. But it has been an active campaign.
Yes, it has.
Signs everywhere.
And
A
if they show up
selectmen's
and
race.
talk, we'll say nice things. And if they don't show up
Absolutely.
and talk,
We'll say bad
we'll
things.
say
We might.
less than nice.
Okay. But usually a selectman's race gets a good turnout. It was cold today.
Well,
cold
it had
and
a
breezy.
BV race because none of
That
it
was the only
contested.
one.
And everyone else, what do they say? Cast one vote for Mike Lally. That's what they said.
That's right. Exactly. Mike Lally was among the
You are
people-
undefeated, though.
town
aren't you?
officials who were running unopposed. And the only race was the selectmen's race. We had incumbent candidate, Mr. Joseph Pacheco,
Joseph Pacheco.
12-year member of the Board of Selectmen, 12-year member, running for re-election for another term, against John Texera. John Texera, a member of the Planning Board, chairman of the Council on Aging, and, whoops, we're getting notes already. Michael Halen is our, results around 8:30, we expect, so.
We've only got 24 minutes, 25 minutes to kill.
Close to 1,000 voters.
Would people turn on the ball game now? I think the Sox are close, 2-1.
That's not a real lot, Don.
Well, 1,000 votes is not much.
voters.
No.
Oh,
For the amount of money, I would love to. I'm going to ask Joe.
Michael's trying to give us
how
signals.
much,
Can you tell
how
what
many
he's trying to
dollars
tell
per
us?
vote?
What are you trying to say, Michael?
I think the last couple of years, between 400 and 600.
I know, last year was pathetic. It was only about 500 voters.
Right, about the last 2 years, but those weren't contested selectmen's races.
Right, well, mine was sort of. I
Well,
mean,
yes, but
it was sort of. It was kind of like yes and no.
But this
Yeah.
is a good turnout for Rainham, but
Really?
the percentage is still very low.
Not when you consider. Do you want to come and join us, Michael?
I don't know why I gave you that. No, 1 second.
Michael Halen is
Mike-
our
Michael.
Rainham program director.
And jack of all trade?
But for a contested selectmen's race with all the signs, Dawn,
I know.
I would expect a better turnout than that. I know last year, the election, we said it was such a beautiful day, everybody left town. But this
I
year,
don't-
today was not a beach day for sure.
My memory isn't what it used to be, so I have trouble bringing them back. Are you ready, Michael, to come up and say something, or do you want?
I just wanted to say,
Oh, yeah, Michael too.
Michael Halen, the Rainham Channel, we got a packed audience tonight. It's nice to see.
Tell them to keep the noise down.
Everybody's watching, though.
Last time they
Michael.
made a lot of noise, the audience.
So I just spoke to the town clerk's office, and she said last time she checked, close to 1,000. But last year, there were
500.
500. The year before that, when Marie ran unopposed for selectmen, there was, I think, like 387, something in that range.
Yeah.
But the amount of, even if it's 1,000, you're still barely hitting 10% of
It's
your voter turnout.
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
In Falmouth, if we don't hit 40%, people get mad, so.
Yeah, I know. What can we do?
Well, Falmouth is called Little Rainham, so when they retire, that's where they go to Falmouth. And
Falmouth,
they vote.
I wish people wouldn't vote, because they usually vote, they vote against me,
He
Don.
keeps losing in Falmouth. He wants them to stay in
Stay
Rainham.
home. Anyway, I'm gonna go back in there, and I'll leave
All
some
right.
more stuff, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. You get us the results as soon as they're
Seemed like a
available.
nice man. Where'd he go? I don't know.
My goodness.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
This is true, although he may argue with that.
Yeah, well.
Master of
he
many,
doesn't argue well,
perhaps.
otherwise he'd win an
Perhaps.
election. He never
Yes. But Dawn,
Yes, Pat.
I mean, how can you, light turnout like that? I mean, there were signs everywhere, for heaven's sake. And the town clerk did a good job trying to promote the election. The big sign was up outside of Town Hall.
Well, we may get involved in something which really we don't want to, in the fact that you and I are fans of what you called, and Michael, you may be too, of the open town meeting. And the quorum went from 250, Kath, is that when we came here? 250, 200, 150, 100, 75, and now it's 25 people. Well, that's almost the number of people counting, the people coming in and things like that, that are citizens. So it's 25. Now,
But look, I mean, the last presidential election, huge turnout. And yet this directly, what happens in the town of Rainham, town government directly affects people
Yeah.
in their homes and in their yards and in their street. Should be a better turnout.
I got to tell my time-old story.
Maybe we need to have a door prize or
There was a
something.
teacher moving to Rainham, and she said to me, how do you get to the polls to vote? And where do you go to register? And so I explained to her how you registered, how you get to vote. And then a couple of years later, she said to me, where do you go to register, and you know, how do you get to vote? And I said, well, I told you that 2 years ago when you, yeah, she said, but this election means something.
Every election does.
It was a national election for president. And the election that she had asked me about where it was the election I was running in. That didn't mean anything. It was nice to see her. But friends like that, you don't need enemies, do
It
you?
is difficult to get interest,
It-
get citizens involved and get them interested. I know for the North Rainham Water District, our quorum was 10 people.
Oh, my gosh.
Sometimes we're on the phone trying to get people for our annual meeting, so it's difficult.
Well, the answer is this is what I'm saying to Pat tonight, though. It's representative form of government. Kathy comes from Stoughton, my wife, and originally her dad was a rep. And so now, I think down where Michael is, and I think Bridgewater turned over and became one with representative form of government too, Bridgewater. Am I coming
Mr.
through?
Lally, would you like to come up and join us for a few minutes? Michael Lally, candidate on the ballot for re-election to the Board of Assessors.
Michael has come to, because 2 years ago he lost the blanks, and that was very embarrassing.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm concerned about. I don't want to lose to blanks.
Well, welcome to my club.
I know.
Oh, my
As a matter
goodness.
of fact, today I went to the polls with my wife Linda, so I know I voted for myself, so I hope I have at least 2 votes.
I voted
I
for
better have 2 votes.
Yeah,
I voted for you. So did you vote for? No, Pat
I
forgot
did.
to vote.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, she, wait, she's going to
I
vote
did
now,
vote.
but it's 8
No.
o'clock.
But it is difficult to get people involved and interested in the town. I mean,
Yeah.
it's getting tougher and tougher.
We can remember we used to go to the, what is it, Lily B. Merrill School, and ball fields would be jammed
Oh,
with people.
opening day.
Yeah, and we couldn't
Today,
get our
too.
quorum. The fire chief had to ring in a fire alarm
Yeah.
to get the firefighters to come, and they knew where they were going, up to the polls to vote.
There was a point in time, like you said, when we had about 300 people, and that seemed to be the number of people that attended the town meeting, and that was a good number. And I mean, 300
Yeah.
people pretty much
Oh, yeah.
ran the town.
Yeah.
They were the elective, the legislative body. And those were good days, but now it's...
I moved to town in 62, and I ran for office in 73, and at that time, I was concerned, of all things, which you don't even think about it now, the mobile home park. There was what we called the trailer park on 138, and there was the mobile home park owned by the Miller family. But there were 5 or 6 on the horizon that were coming in for hearings. And at that time, I said, if you don't restrict the number of mobile home parks, and one time, they were brought on a bus after cookies and
Maybe we have to put a question on the ballot that would really spark a lot of interest, something outrageous, but then it could pass.
You've got one coming up. You've got 3 articles coming up with petition, I believe, on
Town meeting warrant,
the
yes.
town
That-
meeting warrant.
I think we'll have a good turnout for
There's
the
3
town
articles,
meeting
and
this year.
that will bring in a crowd.
And the
They
Route
will
138
be-
rezoning.
The votes will be
too.
in the barn. And that'll be very interesting, Pat, because I'm going to make an issue of the fact that I haven't read the wordage, so maybe I'm wrong. But we are, as a town meeting, the legislative body, and Pat now and myself before with the executive branch. And the executive branch are the ones that handle negotiations, salaries, employment, and what you do in the water. And if that article supersedes the negotiations, which it sounds like it might, then pretty soon other union heads are going to say, which I don't blame them if it's there, they could do the same thing and march on the town meeting. And once they pass that article for the salary or for the number of employees or things of this nature, the legislature basically has taken over the town. Now, a lot of people say, well, what do I care about that? You're going to care a lot about it because you're going to change the town government. Because the town government can't let that go on. They're going to have to get representative form of government. Otherwise, people are going to march on the town meeting and do whatever they're going to do.
How long have you been involved in town government, Mike?
Well, this is my 7th term, so there's 21 years. So I've had 18 years on the Board of Assessors.
Really?
Did a couple years on the Rent Control Board, and prior to that, I had about 13 years, I think, on the
gosh.
FinCom.
Really?
So
The Finance Committee you're best known for,
really,
because numbers, of all the things people don't want to do, it's the numbers. And so therefore, in a town, when you find someone who knows number, you definitely want to let them go. So you could have stayed on the Finance Committee because you are a number person.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you could have stayed on forever, and that's why you were so popular at the time. But then you switched over on your own, right?
Yeah, I did. And I enjoyed the assessors. It's funny, too, because when you look at how
Oh,
many
that's
people,
numbers also.
and how many people migrated from the FinCom over to the assessors.
That's
It
right.
was, Bill Lewis,
Bill Lewis.
Gordon Luciano,
Yeah.
2 really good people, and so we've had.
Are those 2 still alive? I didn't.
Yeah.
I hope they're watching tonight so I can get them, get them sit up straight a little bit.
They're both on our government study committee, actually.
And Gordon's now the town administrator for the period of time.
Acting
which
town
was
administrator?
I would say was an excellent selection.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gordon's
I
he's a
have a
good
show,
man.
which I don't know if I'm going to keep doing but Small Town Talk. And on that, eventually, I'm going to give awards for different things in the town. And one of them is going to be the Harry Carey Award. In the prior century, Harry must have had 8 different jobs or so. But in the next century, Gordon Luciano has
Yep.
had those jobs.
Yeah.
I think he's just been on about everything. He was
That's-
on the
that's-
finance committee, assessors,
Yes.
school committee, selectmen,
Yep.
and now, most recently, the sewer commission.
He's a good man. I mean, he really applies himself, and he puts himself into the job. So, yeah, he's a good person to have on whatever board.
I forget how many terms he was on, but I think it was at least 3, I think, Michael, I'm not sure. Remember, Pat?
On
Maybe
which board?
Gordon, if he's around tonight. Whether he was selectman for 2 or 3 terms. John Donahue and Gordon both have stayed active in the town. John's now the moderator and chairman of the committee, the study committee. And he was a selectman, I think, for I believe only 1.5 terms, though, because I think he took over, someone resigned. And Gordon was, I'll have to get him to find out exactly.
Hey,
Hi,
come
Marie.
join us.
Somebody put this down. I apologize. This was a person a street person came in, and I wrestled him to the ground. But the last thing they did, put your name tag down.
Why don't we get Marie up here?
Before you leave, though, Mike, just
Your husband's
I'm gonna
sorry.
run.
This is she's not.
before you leave, I think there are a lot of people that still don't realize what the assessors do. Can you explain a little bit about that since we have you here?
Sure, okay. The primary function of the assessors is to value the properties of the town. I mean, that's our primary, to make sure that the town is valued at full and fair market value. A lot of people think that we're responsible for the taxes and the tax rate and all that.
Well,
No,
they blame you.
they blame us, I know. We get blamed for a lot of things.
Somebody has to be blamed.
But our primary job
It
is to
isn't
see
Pat and I.
that the valuation of the town is at a full 100% of the market value. And that's a job in itself. Really, that is the primary thing. That's where all the.
And Michael said that the many of the members of assessors came from the finance committee, which
Right.
is
That's correct.
the number person in the town, then went over to the number person in the town. And so over the period of years, you can look at, and I've been active since, 73. I don't remember the assessors ever having a negative reputation at all. They came in, they did their job, and there it is.
We've had some really good people. on the
That's
board,
right,
really
you
good.
have.
We've been
When I go
really
back to
lucky
the
with
people
our
I
town
served with,
officials. Absolutely.
That's
We
right.
have some tremendous,
Yeah.
I've always said that about the town, and I'm really proud of the town.
Well, we're glad
And-
you've stayed
and-
around.
And I know the Board of Selectmen, you've done a tremendous job, and all the other departments. I mean, I think the town is really fortunate that we've got a lot of good people representing them. But like I said, I'm really happy with what you said about the Board of Assessors, because we've had some good people. Some of the people that passed, like Jack Lynn, he was a great.
Jacqueline was
He was a great guy.
quality man.
He was a great guy, a tremendous person, a really great guy. And like I said, we've had other individuals, and we have some good people in there now.
Who
So,
serves with you now, Michael?
currently we have Chris Gallagher and Jen Oldfield Banks. And they're doing a good job. Chris brings a lot to the table in his knowledge. He's an encyclopedia of all the properties in the town. And then Jen has a good financial background with banking and all. So, and then our staff, Jessica Gasha and Amy Engelhardt, they're just tremendous. They go over and above in serving the public. I know that they go out and they'll actually remind people on exemptions to file their exemptions, and they go over and above. So
Okay.
we've got a good crew.
Excellent. For those that are joining us, we are live on television, on cable right now, and hoping for the results come in soon. We're congratulating one winner that we know today, Michael Lally, to the Board of
Because
Assessors.
he and I both voted for him. So he's ahead 2-0, and they haven't even started counting.
That's right. That's right. Hopefully, my wife voted too.
Is it a three-year
I
term?
think so. Somebody
I
liked you.
know.
yeah.
I
Is it a three-year term, Michael?
3-year term.
Three-year term.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
So,
right, very good. Well, congratulations.
Thank
thank you very
And
much.
thank you for joining us.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Mike is what you call a filler.
Phil.
No. He's a
No,
winner.
the
He's a
primary
winner,
person-
Don.
Primary person who can talk, not a
Thank
filler.
you, Michael.
Who said filler?
We have a member of the Board of Selectmen out in the audience. Would you care to join us for a few
Just
minutes?
give us a little bit of,
Mrs. Smith?
Get yourself reorganized.
you're the
Come
only
on
guest speaker
down.
with a name. Do you have yours up? Oh, yours is still over there. Pat has one, Marie has one, and Joe has one, so we've got
Come
one
on down, Marie.
person with Marie Smith.
Well, what a nice day last day.
I was just saying to somebody before, who was I talking to? Who knows? I was talking to somebody, I said, your husband and Ted Gay and I were the three people we knew that went to Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania.
That's right.
And
That's
one of Ted
right.
Gay's last articles was to say, I want you to know I'm very objective and I'm not singling out Don because he and I went to Indiantown Gap. And I thought Richard went, Marie's husband, late husband, went to Indiantown Gap also. So we're the three that went to Indiantown Gap.
three that
And
went-
as they say in the crowd when they hear that, who cares?
Indiantown Gap was a very interesting place.
Well, it was considered the Marine
Camp.
basic training,
Right.
that it was so difficult to get into. As a matter of fact, when I went over to Italy, the lieutenant there took us as a group because we came from the Gap.
Yeah.
It was called the Gap in those days.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So we had a good run.
Yes.
And some people believed the stories that were told about us.
Some people believed him. I'll tell you, there were some pretty good stories that come out of there, too.
Yes, they were. I'll tell you how bad it was. How bad was it?
How bad was
It was so bad that when lieutenants went over, they had to change their MO and change their designation so that the soldiers who took basic training under those officers and sergeants weren't in combat with them. There is a term which military people use, you guys know it, fragging, they call it. And it's a terrible thing. They roll a hand grenade into your tent, and that's the end of that day for you. And so they wanted to keep the soldiers away from the people that trained us, which I didn't have that problem.
No, I don't think Richard had a problem
No.
either.
No. And Richard went to Germany, I went to Trieste.
Yep.
And so we
He
both,
went out in the field cooking.
I got
He did
spaghetti
many
and
things
meatballs.
in the service, too. He was in the motor pool.
I should have paid them. Never mind them
Full
paying
of
me.
fun.
Patricia, hit us on hard. This is the illegal meeting, so we're going to do as much as we can
Oh,
with it.
dear. Never gave that a thought.
Well, wait till we got
We're
one more.
live on
We'll
TV,
have-
so-
We'll have
Why
three.
don't you come up here so it won't be illegal? We'll have an X as well as two X's and two pluses and
And a partridge in a
a
pear
partridge in a pear tree.
But we are awaiting results from today's
Yes,
election. They said about
yes.
8:30 they thought we would have some results, so we're almost there.
Did we have any kind of account from the
Well,
machines at
I-
all?
Well,
I
1,000 is
probably
the
have
About
estimate total,
1,000.
which is very
Oh,
low.
that's-
That's low, I know. We were just saying, how can we get people to vote?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know, there were signs everywhere. People had to know there was an election going on. I mean, last year we said it was such a beautiful day, everybody left town.
Well,
But it
today
wasn't
I
such a
would have
beautiful
thought
day
more
today. It
people
was
would have come
cold
with the
and-
opening of baseball, I believe.
I know.
And, they
Well, I
had
was
all-
saying, we used to go to the town meeting in the old days, and the ball field was filled with people, and then we couldn't get a quorum. No new numbers, Michael evidently, he's got no new numbers.
Still waiting, waiting,
wow.
waiting.
Well, pretty interesting.
So maybe, Marie, if we put, I was just saying, if we put like a controversial article, you know, a decision to vote on something,
You mean something very controversial?
a ballot question, maybe
To
that would get a
recall
good,
Marie Smith.
a ballot question, maybe that could get some excitement. The only thing
Tell
is if
what?
it was like outrageous, whatever, when it passed, then we'd be in trouble. But maybe something to generate interest.
Well, I don't really know.
We'll have to
if
think
that-
about that.
Yeah.
Or door prizes or something,
Maybe we should serve refreshments. and-
something.
One year, who did that?
You know, the
at town
presidential
meeting one
con-
time?
George
That was for
gave-
town meeting, I
Yeah,
think, right?
At the
Yeah.
town meeting,
Cake and
cookies,
took a
cake,
bus.
water. Remember?
Then he developed a kink in his neck to watch how the votes were coming out. Hey, the night
Yes,
shift
it
is here.
was.
Come
Welcome
on
board.
down.
Come on down. Sit on this side over here.
Sitting up front, okay.
Come on up here,
But
John.
I can't sit behind his sign.
Oh, put it,
You gotta put
yeah,
his sign
okay.
over here.
Oh, my goodness.
See, I told you, there's three people with signs, and you got a button.
And I get my button.
One of the
Everywhere.
No buttons, no
candidates in the
signs.
one contested race,
Yes.
John Texera. Welcome, John.
Thank you, thank you. It's good
I
to
told
be
you it was
here.
going to be easy to run for this. I saw him at the senior breakfast, and John said, "Oh, this is not easy to run
A
for.
lot of work, a lot of work.
A lot of work involved in it."
But hopefully with good results. We'll see.
Still
Time.
waiting. We're hoping
Yeah.
to get results in fairly soon. We're told about 8:30, so.
Vegas wouldn't touch this.
No, is that right?
No, they refused. I didn't see that.
But
This came
No, I
in
want-
the newspaper.
I was going to say, I wonder if all the signs that have disappeared over the past months are going to show up somewhere in a
Who's that?
pile.
Did you lose signs too?
Oh,
John?
I lost about half a dozen signs. One of them, they didn't take the sign, they just punched holes through my eyes
Oh, my
on the
gosh.
sign.
Well, that means the eyes have it.
I hope that's what it meant. But have this feeling that they're all going to show up in a big pile in somebody.
Wow.
In the late
We
1990s,
didn't
I ran
move
for
any, did we? Yeah.
Park and Rec Commissioner.
I don't recall.
And I got a phone call on a Saturday morning from the person I was running against saying, "Hey, John, there are 6 of your signs on my front lawn. what do you want me to do? I said, I'll be over to get them, Scott. So people do funny things with signs. Oh, and I'm sorry, 6 stolen, eyes punched out, and 1 run over by a car, deliberately. It was seen, but anyway.
So
What
was
can you
that
say?
Park and Rec the first time you ran for elected office?
Yes, that's correct. That was in the late 90s.
Uh-huh.
There were 3 of us running that time, which is a difficult race, I think. There was the incumbent, it was myself.
Park and Rec can be very controversial.
Yeah, and Scott Murdoch was the other candidate.
Oh, that's right.
And that was a close race. I won by 25 votes, as a matter of fact.
What year was that?
96, 7, 8,
Oh,
somewhere in
wow,
that
that's
area. I don't
back a
remember
bit.
so far. So far back.
In
That was
the
the
debate,
first
you
one.
would say Joe was in the 5th grade.
That's right.
That's who you
That's- I think in the debate, I also, Joe touted a lot about he spent his whole life here and so forth,
Yeah.
but I've lived here longer than he's been alive.
Which isn't hard to do.
No, not when they're 33. I have children older than him. But, and then, because I ran for planning board, it's 4 years ago now, and I only had 1 vote cast against me, and that was for Mickey Mouse. So
No kidding.
no one else ran against me, so that was an easy
Oh, it was
one to win.
unopposed.
It was unopposed, yeah. So I hear around 1,000,
That's
Yeah,
the
we're
word.
just talking
The
about
word is
that,
1,000, but we haven't.
better
got
than we usually have for town elections, but still disappointing. And-
Yes.
Very low
Yes.
turnout.
You know, and I've said it, I don't know if you recall, a few town meetings ago when we lowered the quorum to 25. I got up because I was real disappointed with that. It passed, obviously, and that's what the quorum is, but I thought, everyone sat here is satisfied with 25 people making the decision for 15,000 people. It is so easy to stuff a town meeting, it's silly.
It's the 15,000 that should be upset.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the 25 that vote.
But I don't know, I don't know how you get people interested in or
I
involved. I
know,
don't know
Joe,
what
we're
the
talking about
Maybe somebody could write a
that.
book on
You
that.
know, a presidential election, there's a huge turnout, and yet this affects people in their homes.
And right up
pocketbooks.
front, right in the pocketbook, I mean,
Exactly.
taxes and all that kind, it's right there, and people just, I guess,
We need
Typical
to
just,
Neil
do a
used to say, it's
s-
all
I
local.
know.
yeah, all politics is local, you're absolutely right. But it's just the way it is.
We're trying to think maybe door prizes next year, or have a ballot question that's going to really generate a lot of interest.
How about a 50-50 at the door, 50-50 tickets? I know that always brings a big crowd to car shows, I don't know if
Yeah.
they'll do it for elections,
Have to think about that.
but,
We really have to put our mind to that.
Yes.
Because it's worse now than it was. The last census count that we heard was 16,000 people.
Uh-huh.
That's something.
16,000
16,000 people,
and 1,000 voting.
1,000 voting. You've got over 7,000.
We have to do better.
voters.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And you get 1,000 people to come out, that's really bad. We've got to do better.
And you know, the issue is that people don't come out, but if you look at the other side of it, we have to have ballots for all 7,000 people. No matter how many
You
come
do.
out, we have to buy the ballots for all 7,000 people. That's,
Is that
a
how many
paper flow.
registered voters we
I
have
think that's
now?
what you just said, we have over 7,000 registered voters. I thought it was closer to 8, but who knows? Yeah,
Wherever in
Yeah.
that realm.
and
but
there,
still,
and there's a
lot of
ballot
paper.
enough. Yeah. And in the bigger elections, you know, the state and the federal, you have to have them, Democrat, or Republican, you have to have all those ballots all the time. And of course, like you said, I mean, the presidential election, I remember the first Obama election, man, they were lined up out the door before we ever opened up at 7 o'clock. They were down the corridor, around the corner, it was unbelievable.
Right,
we
'cause
got our
you've
money's
been there working the elections usually.
Yeah, I was the warden up until 2 years ago for precinct 2 and 2A. And I gave it up. I said, that was the only paying job you did for the town. How come you gave that one up? It's a long day. It's, you know, I was there at 6 in the morning, and I usually, you know, at least people are bringing in the books here now, because we got new machines now. I don't know if it
I
might be
know
easier.
that, yes.
But, you know, I would get home at maybe 10:30 at night, and I was beat.
Oh,
It's a
sure.
long day.
You
Yeah.
want to talk about a long day at the polls, go back to the 70s.
Yeah.
We had paper ballots
And you had to
then,
count
they
them
had to be
manually?
hand-counted,
Yeesh.
hand-counted, 50 at a time.
That must have been fun.
That
We had a
was-
recount, we had a recount.
We had a recount once, yeah.
Is that right?
Ted Gay.
Oh,
was
maybe
there,
that will
Cheney,
happen tonight.
Yeah.
Who's up for a recount? Who's up for counting votes if we need a recount tonight? Anybody? No? Okay, I thought we could count on you, Dick.
It was very interesting in those days, though, really. because
Oh, I'm
we-
sure.
We never had a mistake. You know
No,
what I
they
mean?
came right up.
They came right
I
up.
won by 21, it came out 21.
Yep. It's amazing. Yeah, we had
Sometimes the,
paper
the old machines gave you some weird numbers, you know, they'd give you a number, and the toughest part about it is, at the end of the night, you go through the books and you count how many people voted, and that's gotta match the count of the machine. And the machines, the old machines were set up, the regular ballot just went into the bucket, but if it had any kind of write-in on it, and it interpreted all kinds of marks as a write-in, it would throw it to the side. You know, so you'd get a different count, and it'd be like, oh, here we go, let's go. And now, if you want to deal with the hard copy ballots to see what find the write-in, well, they're all, so now your first job is to put them all, go in the same direction, face up, and then you start, okay. It's a long process, that's like I said. Oh, looks like results.
Gosh,
It's nothing good, guys. Don't worry about it.
nothing good.
Pat's got it if it's nothing good, if it was good.
Town clerk says no issues and should have numbers soon.
Super.
Well, that's good, no issues. So the machines worked well, that's
Well, that
good,
means
that's good.
faulty
And we should
machines.
have
That
the
was
numbers
good. There wasn't
soon,
all
we're
new
beyond the
machines.
8:30 by a
Yeah.
couple minutes, but, yep, all
Yeah,
right,
the
so we should have the
machines are
results
working
soon.
all right.
That's good,
Yes.
that's good. Yeah. I'm sorry?
No hanging
hanging
chads.
chads.
Chads. The machine
Nobody
wouldn't
count,
take
hopefully.
my ballot.
I have to
It
take-
wouldn't.
No, I put it in, and it shoom, came
Shoom
back.
right
and I
back
said,
out?
Okay, now what? I put it in again, it should come right back out. So the young lady that was manning the machine comes over, and she says, I wonder why? I said, I don't know. Must have done it about 4 times, and finally I went back. I didn't have my glasses on when I make the little marks, and I didn't have them completely
In the circle, oh yeah,
the
that's,
circle.
it's very,
And it
they're very
was
sensitive,
very
those machines.
sensitive, very sensitive. So I
I
put my
have-
glasses on and
And became a legal voter.
became a legal voter, and it went choom right through, which was good.
I have, one of my friends works the polls, and somewhere this afternoon, I got a text message from him, and I looked at it, and it said, this just in, evidence of Russian collusion in the Rainham election discovered, news at 11. Oh, beautiful. It's universal.
Oh, gosh.
Marie, give us some scoops.
Oh, Pat's the one with the
Pat's the one
scoops.
with scoops.
I have no scoops.
No inside scoops, Pat,
No
huh?
inside scoops.
No, I have no scoops.
Waiting
Nothing,
for the
nothing new.
results.
Nothing's
So,
going
John,
on.
tell us, how was it different running for selectman versus, what you've done in the past?
Well, first of all, like, as far as the planning board, I had an opponent this time.
Yes.
In the past, we did do a debate. If you recall, you hosted it up in Easton there, and
Boy, how long ago was that?
yeah, it was in the Easton TV studio that we
Yeah.
did. This one has been intense. There's no question about it. I mean, Joe's been around for a long time, and I know he wanted to continue with this. But as I said in the debate, which has been playing all week tonight,
Which is
continuously, he's over there, thumbs up. If you haven't seen it, you're probably sick of it if you have. But I wanted to run. People have said to me, why? I mean, this is a time in life when you should be, taking it easy. And I am, but I'm not the type of person who can just sit still. There are things that I see in town that I don't like that are happening, okay? I've talked before about the growth. Now, I'm not against growth. I'm on the planning board. We approve all kinds of things. And people have said, well, you're on the planning board. Why don't you stop some of the growth? Well, people don't understand. We don't have that authority to stop the growth. That's not within our purview at all. We're growing too fast. There's too many 60, 90, 80 lot developments that are going on. And the first place I look to see, forgetting the fact the firemen and the police have to deal with all this, the schools. I spent a good, 3 hours or so with Derek at the beginning of this campaign to understand what he's going through. And he said, the numbers show that the school enrollment is going down. He said, but people got to look closer. It's going down at the back end, at the high school level. He said, we're getting 25 to 30 new kids every year coming into
So
K through
kindergarten,
fourth grade.
1 through 4.
Yeah. He said, what does that mean? Well, it either means another school or it means the class size is getting bigger. And they're getting bigger this year. Right? We
There's
know
no
that.
room.
Huh?
Schools are full, there's
And
no
their
additional
schools
room.
are full.
Right.
There's not, as I said, there's nothing wrong with growth, but we got to manage it. We got to look at it and say, well, okay, how much growth can we stand in a year? How much can we do it before we have to go out and get another school? Build more schools and so forth. So there's that. And one of my other pet peeves is traffic. God, we all know we can't do anything about Route 138 and Route 44, the traffic that's there. But as much as we're annoyed by it, so is a lot of this heavy equipment. they don't want to have to travel 138 and 44. So they cut across Elm Street. They cut across King Philip Street. They go over the little bridge that clearly says no heavy trucks on Mill Street. And when they're going through there, they're not doing the 30 miles an hour. They're doing 40, 45, and it's very common to come around a curve on King Philip Street, and they're halfway on your side of the road, and you got to stop or pull over onto the grass to avoid them. That we can control. We can set up streets that we don't allow them to go down. In general, I think there's a complete lack of respect for our traffic laws in this town. It's unbelievable. I mean, every third car goes through a red light in this town. It's just... I see it on 44 at Orchard Street. I see it at King Philip Street on 138. I see it up on Elm Street. I've actually seen cars second in line to a red light go around the car that did stop and go through the red light. Now, I don't fault the police department for that, because I'll be the first one to tell you, I think we're understaffed. Now, I'm glad we added 2 new officers, but overall, I think we're understaffed on the police department. We really could use more people. The poor guys, they spend so much time. I always hear the sirens. They're going out to Orchard Street and 44 because there's another accident. The other morning, my wife and I left the house. We turned out of the street, and there were cars parked right at the corner of First Street. And First Street is difficult because it's a hill. So if there's a car parked there and you have to move over, you can't see what's coming up the hill. So I always get annoyed when I see that, and I usually call Greg, the dispatcher, and say, hey, there's another one parked right under the no parking sign.
Oh, good. Oh, good, it's Mr. Texas.
Oh, he knows my voice. I mean, between that and cars who unload out on 44 at the car lots, I have no tolerance for that at all whatsoever, because they park right in front of the Wendy's, and you cannot see what's coming trying to get out of the Wendy's parking lot. Now, it's not just me. I don't spend a lot of time at Wendy's, but anyway, we were going to pull out of the street, and those 2 cars, I said, damn, they do it all the time. But before I got to go to the phone, I noticed there's a car in the middle of Route 138 was taking a left out of the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and he got broadside, or she got broadside, whatever it was. And it's just constant with the car accidents. On those 2 roads especially, there's just so much traffic. But, you know, we need more enforcement. Now, how do we get more policemen? I know that means more money, but we also got to look at how we spend our money. And no offense to my finance committee, if there are any members here, or the assessors and so forth, but I got to tell you.
I heard the key word there.
Yeah, it woke you right up. I saw last year at the fall meeting, we had $3.4 million in free cash. We spent all but $59,000. It must have been burning a hole in our pocket. I mean, I don't know. I think we just got to get a better handle on how we spend all that money. And let me tell you, there's no such thing as free cash. Some of that money came from me and you and you and you. There's no and you folks out there. There's no such thing as free cash. Free cash is money you've collected over and above what you needed to run the town. And now I know we put a lot of money towards our outstanding debt, which is a good thing. But maybe we should have put $2 million towards our outstanding debt last year, and hence our expenses for the next year would have been less. I don't know what the right number is, you know. When we see the results here, maybe I'll be in a position where I can get into that kind of stuff more deeply. I've spent a lot of years doing a lot of budgets that are much bigger than this town's budget. I've done $750 million budgets on some of the programs that I've run for Raytheon. So I'm familiar with budgeting and how you not cut corners but stretch the dollar. So I have experience in that area, and I hope people who saw my flyer that went out in the mail, all 6,014
This
of
was
them.
very nice. We'll talk
Thank
about
you.
that when Joe gets here.
I hope they read some of that and they understand that I really think there's some things that I can do. So,
Well, I know
said enough.
sometimes like Kathy and I live on Richmond Street,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always called that, before I even moved there, the back door to Shaw, the back road to Shaw's, or the back road to the landfill, or the
Yep.
dump, depending on what you
Yep.
want to call it. But I will say this for the town always takes care of that street.
Yep.
And it's in good condition. I think sometimes people wonder how come that street is being treated what they would think almost special. But the point is, it's
Got a
at
lot of
5 in the
traffic.
morning, the trucks are going by.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between.
They just
difference-
repaved that this past
Well, I
fall, right?
wondered who
Yep.
would buy a house on that street, and it was me. John, it's just one of those things with people like me.
I see. But, yeah, I mean, we get a lot of traffic, you know, we really do, and I think we can control some of it on where it goes. I really,
Well, you
the
mentioned-
big haulers that haul these backhoes and bulldozers, they scare the heck out of me when they're coming up King Philip Street. And I go back and forth across that street at least a half a dozen times a day. I'm sorry, I
No,
couldn't.
that's okay. You're not alone with those concerns, because concern about overdevelopment and traffic were the top vote getters, so to speak, on the town survey, too, that
I
people
would
have the
imagine they would
greatest
be.
concern about is overdevelopment. And also keeping the sense of community that we have in Rainham, which I think is so important. And some communities have lost that. We've been able to keep that, and hopefully we always can, because that's what, really makes Rainham so special.
We've gone through this before, though, so many times with the growth issue.
Yeah, and I believe in the early 90s, we
Yes.
had a moratorium or a limit, if you would. But I guess the way, like I was saying earlier, that the planning board really can't control that. It's a town vote that's needed to do that. And the state mandates that it can only be for a certain amount of time.
Right, right.
You can't do it indefinitely. But hey, anything we get, any leg up, we get on it. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't say you can't build a house. But, there's a particular builder, and I don't need to know who he is, but he's in the middle of a 60-lot development right now, and he just bought another piece of land for a 90-lot development. Now, that isn't all gonna happen in 1 year. Okay,
No, but
obviously,
when
that's
you-
over a
when
number
you
of years.
stretch it
But
out,
he comes
stop
in
and
at
figure.
20 a whack.
Right.
Every 6 months or so, he's looking for 20 more of them. That's a lot of houses all at once.
John, does the planning board have any control over, like, how large in a development like that, how large the size of the lot is, or your hands are really tied?
No, typically, it's not the planning board who has that control, it's our zoning and building requirements that
Okay.
have. For example, you need 150 feet of frontage and 40,000 square feet if there's sewage and water, or water on the property. If there isn't, and you're gonna do septic, then you need 60,000 square feet. Those are all defined in the zoning bylaws. Okay, so we just make sure that when they come in, their plans show that they have that, okay? And Bob Iafredi goes through all that stuff before we even see it, and he brings those to our attention. But I mean, it's pretty obvious if it doesn't.
I believe Bridgewater has started doing something with some of their developers that come in and asking that, or requiring them to put so much money toward the schools, or to.
Oh, is that right?
Yes,
Oh,
and that might be
that's
something that
different,
we
yeah.
can look into
Yeah.
too. If a development is coming in, it's going to obviously impact, as you said, school and services.
yeah,
And
definitely.
if they can make a contribution
Yeah,
to
that's
help out in that way, might be something to look into.
One of the leading development in Rainham as we sit here. I endorsed that for the new high school. And I was told by the people from Bridgewater, you'll never live to see the day when Bridgewater kids will come over the line to the town of Rainham.
Well, you saw the day, did you?
Well, I think I've seen the day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And now the development's here, and the middle school's in a very nice location, but you gotta remember what happened with the middle school. The assessment of the value of that property in Bridgewater, we all know where that the new high school is, I'm sorry, the new high school. We all know now, that was valued based on the police department across the street. And if anybody ever takes a look coming up the street in Bridgewater to take the left to go into the high school, you'll see that on the right is the Bridgewater Police Department. Did you ever wonder why it was almost on the street so close? Because the whole place is a wetland. And when they went to appraise it, they knocked down the value of the land. So when our appraiser came in to appraise the high school, it came in what we considered a high price, but it was a high price because the police department in Bridgewater had already came in with a dollar figure that was very high in comparison to what you would normally think it is, because it was an appraised wetland. So there's always some story behind the story,
yeah.
which...
You know most of them, John.
Sometimes I tell them, and then people think I don't like people from Bridgewater. It has nothing to do with the people from Bridgewater, because now we do notice, because the Mitchell School collapsed, Bridgewater children are now coming into the town of
Yeah.
Rainham,
Yeah.
and the beat goes on. There's a book there somewhere, if anyone likes to be a good author.
You haven't written one yet? I'm
No.
surprised.
No, 86, that's the end of that. Ship has sailed.
Okay. But,
Still waiting on results here.
Well, that's right.
Yes.
Mike is getting up.
Mike-
Oh, Mike's gonna go check.
Mike
Should have
is
something. Now we have 4 precincts now, correct?
6.
Oh, 6, I'm sorry, 6
Yeah,
precincts.
There's 2 A's,
It's
2A and 1A.
A's, yes,
1A,
yes,
2A.
yes,
That's a few years now, that's,
yes.
The
Well, I was
year- the
thinking
year
precinct 1,
before
2, 3,
Bonnie
and
Frank
4.
And it's all in one
Yeah.
building, which is very nice.
I
Yeah.
think that was the big plus when we did that.
All in one
All
building.
in one building. That was perfect, right?
Certainly made it
How
easier
many,
for people.
how many
to vote.
workers, John?
When I did it, I always had eight people. I had 3 people checking in, because 2 is a big precinct, and I had 1 person for 2A, and 3 checking out. I had 1 person at the machine, because that's where you get into big trouble. People put them in backwards, upset, whatever, and so forth. And if it clogs up or it kicks out, they're gone already, and it's on the floor. And then there was myself and somebody who handed out the ballots. And you know, sometimes I do, like, I'll pick on the Obama election. I knew it was going to be a biggie that time, so I had extra people. They had a couple of people on the ballots, because it was constant all day long. The line never, ever stopped that day. But usually 8 was the group. It'd be a warden,
And that's
a clerk.
That's for one precinct,
One
right?
precinct.
One
Right.
precinct, that's right. So, you figure it's the same for all, well, 4 of them, because we.
Did you consider 2 and 2A one precinct?
Well, they were both under me, and that 8
That's
covered
what I
both
meant.
of them.
Yeah.
But, so, you know, you figure 4 groups of 8, 32 people for 400 votes, do the math. That's an expensive day.
I guess, yes.
And
I
that's 1 of
noticed,
6.
a lot of young people working the polls. Did you
That's a
notice
good
that?
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
which is good.
Everybody looks young to me. There's a problem.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we are
didn't move
now
enough.
officially in the dark.
We did not move enough.
Moving enough in here.
Gee whiz. Somebody in the
That's
back
right.
yawned.
It's
or
not
something.
your TV,
This
stay
light-
tuned.
This light is based on movement, and we've got all the senior citizens here tonight, so.
Drum roll.
We got some numbers. Oh, they printed it upside down, Michael.
Oh. Still no numbers. But Don definitely did not win.
Did I
You didn't win, Don.
I wrote my name in.
Still no numbers. Okay, we're still waiting. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
It's a
someone
long
out there has
time.
to
It's a
jump
lot of-
up and down now and then so the lights don't go out.
Yes.
And people think we're in the dark.
Michael will be in charge of waving his arms.
Well, we got the town meeting coming up.
Yes,
Yes.
so
Town
important.
meeting. and
Town
I'd love to see
meeting.
that warrant. I haven't seen a copy.
No, I haven't seen
Would you like to see it? I happen to bring one along right here.
anything about that.
It is
interested in
May
it.
14th, pre-town meeting. Will precede, pre-town meeting here, May 14th. And then the annual town meeting is May 20th, 7 o'clock. There'll probably be a special town meeting at like 6:45, 7 o'clock. Rainier Middle School, really important. We need a great turnout. Everybody needs to come.
Absolutely.
Doesn't cost anything.
No,
And it might actually cost you if you don't go.
This is true.
Exactly, but yes, so important. And one- hats off to the Finance Committee for doing all of this work. Gil Aligi, the chairman, Linda DeMello, Maria Gomes, Ted Sargent, and James Halleck. And you should be getting one of these in the mail.
Oh, all right.
Marie, they're going to
Yes,
be mailed out,
coming very shortly.
coming very shortly, and bring it
Does
with
that
you to
include
town meeting.
the, ones that are not from the town that are.
Yes, the citizens petitions will be on here as
citizen
well.
petitions will be on there also.
Absolutely, yes.
That'll be interesting.
Yes, it should be.
Yes, there are 3 citizens petitions, I believe, and then, of course,
I think-
all of the.
I think all
but
3 are
4?
connected.
Check.
Yes, they are.
It might be easier to talk about them in a pre-town than in the town.
I think so.
Because they're 3 different
yeah.
articles, but they all have to be talked about, because they all connect. And you can't connect them at the annual necessarily, because they are separate on the one hand, but yet they have the end result.
And if I remember correctly, they all came in the last minute, just before the
Yeah.
deadline.
That's what I was told.
There are actually 5, I believe. 1, 2,
Petition?
3, 4, 5,
5.
6.
Maybe even more came in.
3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is- or more. I'm looking at 7. It's going to be very interesting. And then, of course, there's the rezoning of 138, which is going to bring in a lot of people, I'm sure, John, as it
Yes,
did
it
last
is.
year.
Yes, it will. I think
Excuse me, what was
when the
that?
political,
John doesn't intend to read that.
when the election signs come down, the Route 138 signs will go up, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so therefore you predict for a crowd,
Oh,
a
yes.
good crowd?
Oh, it usually is when that subject comes up. I mean, it has been in the previous years, so I assume it will be.
It's not as important as kittens.
No comment. As I said in the debate,
Oh,
anyone.
you
who-
got a no comment there.
Anyone
I'm-
who sits in a debate and speaks unkindly about kittens is doomed to lose the debate, the election,
And the
and
whole
all the
thing.
friends,
All
every friend
love
he ever had.
kittens.
I don't know about that.
We'll see.
Well, I stayed away from the subject in the debate, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was very
You
glad.
did the right thing, Jim.
Definitely did the right thing.
That's just like in television, they say the worst act to follow is an animal act, right?
Yeah.
Or a kid's act.
Okay, so that's really important. People need to
Yes,
come up for that.
absolutely.
Highlight of that, too, will be the Albert Porter Citizen of the Year Award.
Mhm.
We still have to work on that, Mrs. Smith, but that will be given out that evening. Dawn, you know a lot about that. Were you on the board that created that, I believe? The Albert
Albert
Porter
Porter-
Citizen of the Year Award?
Where Albert Porter was different, what happens is you could never accuse him to run against an individual. He always ran for the position. He never cared who he was running against. And everybody ran against him. So, Marie remembers that well.
Yes, I do.
She said goodbye to Albert one time. But that is the way it was. Most people who
It wasn't
run,
against Albert.
yes, you beat Albert.
I know, but it wasn't against Albert.
No. But I'm saying Albert just placed his name in there.
Yeah. I liked Albert. Albert was a fine man, and we never had a crossword or a problem before or after.
And what did you do to poor Albert?
I ran against him.
And what did you do to poor Albert?
I guess I won.
Marie, how long have you been
This is a tough
involved now?
crowd. This is a tough
How
crowd.
long have you been involved in town government?
This, in town government?
Town government.
Since 1970.
My gosh.
Yeah,
That's a while.
1970. It's been a nice, long haul. It
Yes.
really has.
Yeah.
I worked for the town clerk, town treasurer, Arnold Ziegler. Anybody ever remembers Arnold
The thing
Ziegler? I
is,
worked for him.
The untimely death of Arnold Ziegler is one of the code words in the town.
Yeah, that's right.
Untimely death.
Now, remember, Arnold Ziegler was the town clerk, the town treasurer, the town he was the auditor.
Didn't he replace Lily B. Merrill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was everything in town. If you worked for Arnold Ziegler, you know, you had better
You really
watch out
worked,
because
huh?
you got he was very, very nice man. Very nice, very nice man. He was a very nice man. But he had many, many jobs, which was wonderful for me because I got to learn from the ground up everything to do with the town of Rainham.
Well, I think Lily B. did many in her house rather than at the town hall at the time.
Yes.
I don't know if there was
Yes.
not enough room, but Lily B. And Lily B., except now every year we dedicate the town report.
Another, yes,
I worked on many committees.
right.
And, served on many committees. I worked on the Finance Committee for 5 years. I was chairman for 5 years of the Finance Committee, worked on that. And then I decided to run for selectman and won. And then I ran again and lost, and ran again and won, and ran again and lost, so on and so forth down the line. And this upcoming will be 18 years
Really?
Selectmen. 18
as
years.
selectman, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I can honestly say I have really enjoyed it. I really have enjoyed it.
You have enjoyed it.
Yes.
I thought you said you haven't.
No, I didn't say I hadn't enjoyed it. Stop putting words in my mouth. I have
Just trying to
thoroughly
keep the
enjoyed it.
conversation interesting.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I've worked with many very, very fine people.
Yeah, there's been great people running
Yep.
for that position
Yep.
and holding office in those positions.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And not only the people that you work with on the board here, but throughout the whole town. I mean, we've seen people come and go. Eddie Murphy, for example, on the highway department, and we saw him come and, his untimely passing, and then
He was
others
truly as dedicated a person to small town
ever, yeah.
as you could ever meet.
We used
in
to
your lifetime.
I used to joke to him all the time about relatives. He used to tell me that the Sorrentino name was very, very common in Rhode Island. Marie, we've got to go to Rhode Island because you've got relatives in Rhode Island. And I said, yes, I know I have relatives in
And
Rhode
some of
Island.
them are out of jail.
Yes, they are. Yes, they got out finally. But at any rate, Donald, he used to say that all the time to me. We've got to go to Rhode Island because, you know, I know your relatives are there.
Are there,
And I'm
yeah.
saying, yeah, okay. We never ever did get a chance to do that, but, yeah, I have relatives in Rhode Island.
And Don, on your comment there, these days that you actually have to be out of jail to run in Rhode Island. It wasn't always that way. But these days you do have to.
That's a prerequisite to running.
He went away years ago to Arizona, he brought back a sign, Donald McKinnon wanted dead or alive. It was a $1,000
Wow.
award to do that.
Yeah.
And luckily, no one took him up on it that week.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Good God.
How long did you serve, Don?
39.
39 years.
39.
That was a
I love
record, was
even
it?
numbers, but I couldn't do that because it was time to
3
go.
times, yeah.
Time to go. Enough.
That was a record, right, for the town of Rainier,
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
I didn't realize how far ahead I was because I thought Albert and I were right in, and I'll come to find out. Albert, when we voted you chairman one time, Albert called us up and said, "What? How come she's the chairman?" You know, and I said, "Albert, do you hear yourself when you speak?" "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I hear myself say, "Well, things like people don't care, Albert. That's something that people don't want to hear." Yeah, that's true. That's true. You want to know why he wasn't chairman?
Yeah.
And I said, "Albert, if we made you chairman, you'd be gone the next year." and he was a great guy, but
Oh, he wasn't
plain
really.
spoken as anybody you'd ever meet in your lifetime. And probably lost more races than he won, but that's what I said about he kept coming back. He didn't care who was running, he ran.
Mhm.
And eventually he would win. But
He's
not
a
as
nice
chairman.
man.
Huh?
He was a very nice man, though.
Nothing wrong with Albert. They got a bridge named after him, which they're trying to repair for 3 years now.
Yeah, they're working on it.
Yeah. Well, he used to play baseball against John, the senator, John Parker,
Johnny Parker.
and they used to play ball versus each other. And Johnny came to me and says, "We got to name a bridge for Albert." And I said, "John, every bridge in Massachusetts is named after you in May, so
There's
there
none
are no
left."
bridges left." And he said, "Oh, there's one, Donald." And I said, "Where is that?" And he said, "Over Route 24. And I said, "You left that for Albert, didn't you?" He says, "Maybe." And he did. He left that bridge for Al Porter. And that bridge now is the one being repaired over 24. And I said to Kathy, each time we go over, make sure the Albert sign is still there. We want to make sure when they finish that, the last thing
sign's
they
still
do
there.
is
Put
knock
the
down
sign
that
back,
sign.
yeah.
Want to make sure that sign for Albert stays up because that's Albert's bridge. And Johnny Parker was legendary. He was the
Oh,
minority leader. Very well known in Massachusetts.
And he also was a very nice man.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
What a great guy,
What a
right?
gentleman he was.
Yeah.
What a gentleman he was.
See, that's why Maria and I last, because we're a people person. We like people.
Yeah, I like-
Can you name anybody we didn't say was nice? Everybody's nice.
There's a
Yeah.
few I could, but I won't. I'll be polite and not name the ones I didn't like. The
Marie,
ones I
were
didn't
any of
quite
those
get along with.
elections that you were involved in hotly contested, where you got a really good turnout?
Well, I had one election that was pretty, the one I had with Gordon Luciano, remember that? But
I
that
do
was the
remember. What
Vermilla
did it come
case.
in at?
Oh, I
I've
don't
got some
remember.
books,
I
but
don't know. I don't remember. I didn't pay much attention to that, either one or you lost. But that was very hot because the mobile home park was a
The
big
issue.
thing that year. And-
Was that after
he was
the
gonna
mobile home
close it.
situation, or?
No, that was right at that time.
Oh, wow.
And I was running for
Did you lose
re-election.
that
I
one, though?
lost that one to Gordon.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
lost that one to Gordon. Lost a few races. I always said, what's the worst thing that can happen to you? You could die, right?
Well, that would be
I mean, that would be the...
no
the-
recount for that.
No, but my point being, Donald, my point being, if you don't run, you don't know whether you can win or lose. And if you lose, what's the worst thing that could happen to you? You lost an election. You're not going to die.
I have champagne on ice at home. Win or lose, we're going to drink that tonight. 'Cause I
You're
have a
right.
house full of people, and
they're saying,
I'm waving
"Won't
to
you
all of
hurry
you
up?"
folks.
Yeah.
Hang in there, I'll be there. I told you about an hour, but I guess I was wrong. It's taking a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
keep that champagne on ice. We're drinking that tonight, one way or another.
You gotta love what you do, and you loved what you did.
Well, I lost to Alan Chalker, and within 6 or 8 months, there's a picture, and I've got it somewhere, of him and I, elbow to elbow, working together to stop the hazardous waste site, which is now Rainham Woods.
Right.
And there were people that wanted to put hazardous waste in that, and Alan and I, who had a very spirited campaign,
Yeah.
and it was my one defeat. I told him I have to take care of him. He said, he's the only guy I ever lost to, so I have to make sure he stays in good health. Because, no comment on Al, right? Some people out there are thinking, well, forget what you're thinking.
No comment.
Never mind what you're thinking. Should we bring Richard up here and get some comments out of him?
Sure.
Come on, Richard.
Richard, former selectman,
Absolutely.
you gotta get some
Now I'm
comments.
ready to talk. First thing I want to talk about is the temperature in this room. It's a little warm.
It's a
Of course, I
little,
could take my coat off, but
And you could fall
There you
asleep, which
go.
most elderly people do.
I'm pretty good.
Richard
thanks.
Shavel, former selectman, joining
Would you like
us.
me to move?
no, please. do not.
And
leave
Richard
his
was
coat on.
also on the
Yeah.
sewer department,
Yes, yep. We did that,
jack of all
and,
trades.
yeah.
Were you on the finance committee too at some point?
I'm sorry?
Were you on the finance committee at some point?
Yes, I was. I was groomed on the capital planning, then graduated to the finance committee, and then by the grace of God, I managed to get into the sewer department. So it was quite a,
You had quite a career.
yes, that was quite a.
Except,
quite a
I was saying,
lot.
except for Gordon Luciano, you hold the record for the most different.
Different position, no, I could never. Gordon is in another whole league.
I told him, he gets a Harry Carey Award.
Yeah, there's no way I
yeah,
could compete
yeah.
with that. But, I heard all of you talking earlier, and it's so true that, and as John was saying also, that, if there were a way to get more people involved, but, it's a state situation, it's a federal situation, it's just not a town thing. I mean, I don't know how many voters, it keeps changing, but like, if there's like 8,000 or 9,000 registered voters, it's in that range type of thing.
Right.
And 500 people vote, it's like a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And the other 7,500 people, I don't know if they're aware of it, of the issues.
Couldn't not know there was an election with all the signs this year, though.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you'll never become aware of the issues.
I know.
If I may interrupt you just with a quick story. As part of the planning board, I'm the representative to the Serpent in town, so I go to the monthly meetings. And they held a class, it was a very good class on town planners and so forth that I attended. There was a young lady from Lakeville, I think it was, sitting across the table, and we were on break, and we were talking about the towns and town meeting coming up. And I told my story about how when I came to town, you needed 250 people for a quorum, and I took her all the way down the line. I said, and now we only need 25 people. And she said, that's terrible. And I said, yeah, I know it is. She said, I live in Rainham. How do we change that? And I said to myself, I know I
Oh,
gotta.
my God.
When's the last time you went to a town meeting? She said, I've never been to one.
Yeah.
There you go, you answered your own question.
That's a great story.
Answered your own question.
And when the towns were originally formed back in the 1700s or whatever, you were required to go to a town meeting. It was mandatory. You had, and people traveled by horse and cart. They traveled for hours to get to the
Well,
meeting.
that's
It
what
was
created
mandatory.
towns, because of the distance.
It's a different thing nowadays, for sure. It's hard to get the people involved in the issues. Certainly, I mean, all of the signs out there, you would think, I mean, your signs, John, Joe's signs, I mean, you'd think people would get the idea that something was cooking, but,
Right.
people have a lot to do, they got a lot on their mind, and it's difficult to get them engaged.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm not sure how you would do more, to be honest with you, than what was done.
I actually thought that with opening day today for baseball and Little League, where people were already out for the game, I thought we'd see a big turnout. I thought people would say, well, I'm out, I'm not that far away from the
Yeah.
polling place that they'd go there. So I don't know.
Walk right by.
Yeah,
But
what's that?
They'll
Now,
walk
did-
right by,
yeah.
get to their
Did
car
I-
and go home.
Sorry, John. John, did I hear that there were 1,000 people voted? Did somebody, was that?
The
Yeah,
word
that's
is
the number they've been
1,000, and
talking.
the population now is 15,000, which is
almost
rather
16.
high in comparison to
Yeah, but
what we
1,000
think.
voters,
I mean, I
that's,
think
Well, for
15,
town
now
election,
it's
that's a big
15.
number, but when you can compare it to the number of registered voters there are,
yeah, oh, no, that
It's-
part is no, but
Or
I
even
mean-
how many people voted in the presidential election. And yet, this is so important. It's right here, it affects you in your home, in your
I know.
pocketbook. I know.
I know, but I have to say that I am surprised at 1,000 voters, because typically we've had 400 or 500.
Yeah.
That's
Last
been
year, there were
kind of
only
like-
about
yeah, that's what it was
500.
last year, it was around
Yeah, so
500.
1,000, I mean, people are obviously excited about the,
Yeah.
the issues.
Well,
that
you know,
both-
with all the side, there was a lot of publicity. I mean, there
Yeah.
were newspaper articles, there were flyers, there was a debate and so forth. You know, in past years, there's nobody, what's
Well,
that?
this is true. It was only
It
the
would have been
one
good if we
contested
did have
race.
school committee.
We didn't have a school committee contested race. Susan
Yes.
No, that's
Prewandowski was
right.
running
Yeah.
unopposed. The person who was running
She's a
in...
very good candidate, by the way.
Absolutely, and in Bridgewater even, I don't think they had a contested race in Bridgewater. The person from school committee, Julie Scleparis, decided not to run for reelection. Mr. Florence, remember our principal at Raynham Middle School, Richie Florence,
Yeah.
his son is running for that seat,
Oh,
so
is
that
that it?
wasn't
He's in
contested.
Bridgewater.
Yeah, he's a teacher in Easton, I
Oh.
believe, yeah. So,
Small
yeah,
world, huh?
that might have generated a little bit more interest if we had a contested
Yeah.
race on the school
I don't
committee.
remember it being this long, though,
Me neither.
with a
No,
new machine
new
coming in,
machines, you would
and
think
just
that-
1,000 people voting, with all due respect to the wardens.
And only
of
one
those-
contested.
It would be
Right.
good.
Well, but I'll tell you what takes the time from personal experience. If there's an error, if your numbers from the book don't match the machine, it's a long process to go through. You know, even though there's only 1,000 voters, if you've got 400 ballots to go through to find the one ballot that's causing the problem, or the first check that we make is you take the incoming books and you compare them to the outgoing books, and you see, hey, is there somebody checked in here that we didn't check out? Because people wander. They start talking, and next thing you know, they've walked right by the table, they put the thing in the machine, so we try and catch that. Matter of fact, a couple of years back, we forced that we blocked how they could get out of the
Yeah.
polling area, because they were scooting out before they ever went to the other table, or you know. So I can sympathize with them, because I've spent on a few occasions, long time there trying to figure out where's that one vote, one person that I can't find in this whole mess. But, you know, the machine gives you the totals, okay? And then that has to be, you know, it's the way it was, unless with the new machine has changed. You transpose that information to a handwritten sheet, and you fill out any write-ins and how many votes for this person, that person, how many blanks, how many, the write-ins, and you have to write each of the names in and so forth.
I
So it
thought
takes a
there
little
was a
time.
goodly number of absentee ballots,
There were.
which
About 100.
usually dictates a high vote,
Yeah, there were about 100, I heard.
so that would be
Which is-
10% of the final total that came in.
Yeah, that's a fair number
Yeah.
of absentees.
But it didn't
That's-
seem to project onto the total now, did it?
Those are the first that go into the machines, too.
Okay, that's how that works. They counted their day.
Marcia gives us those, or used to give me those. You get a pile of them in the morning, and you go through and you have to open up the envelopes, and you become the person going to the check-in book. And I would do it, and I'd say, okay, this street, so forth, and street, and you check them all in.
Oh,
Then you go to the checkout and check them all out, then you feed them all into the machine. And that's assuming it's a quiet morning, you know. In a presidential election, you gotta fit that in wherever you can, because like I said, the Obama election, the first one, they were out the door, and it never stopped all day long. We were here very late that night, very late.
and the recent presidential election, too.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was a huge
Yeah,
turnout.
I didn't happen to work that one, but
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe I did, I don't know.
How's that memory course you're taking, John?
I forget. It sounds going. I forget how it's going. But I remember, you know, and we say it all the
That's
time.
my life.
I remember the words to
I don't
every
know.
song from the '60s, but I can't remember why I went into the kitchen. It's incredible sometimes.
Michael's got a message, but I
Well, if
can't.
you
No.
remember it.
just,
He said, his message is not ready.
Not ready.
No, that's his message. His
Wow.
message is nada.
How about Easton? Do you want to go to the next town over, see if we get some votes?
Are they voting today as well?
I don't know, Bill. We gotta get something
well,
from somebody.
if you're just joining us, this is Saturday Night Live election results, and we are waiting for the election results to come in.
Started it before 8, and here we are.
Yep, the polls closed at 8
Walk
o'clock,
past
and we are waiting,
Putting the heat on
waiting,
them.
waiting.
Right back, put the heat on
Yes, yes,
And becoming more anxious by the moment.
yes.
them. All we want is results. We don't ask for much, Richard, do we?
I
On this road.
know. Well, it was a good race. I
Was-
thought it was,
Yes.
I really did. I thought the
It was a good
debate was
debate. You
excellent.
guys had a good
Yes.
debate.
I-
The part I watched.
Thought it
And
was
I,
good.
and I also thought, excuse me, John, I also thought that each contender had a flyer.
They
And-
did, that's,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, and I thought each flyer was very different, but yet really very, very well done. Yeah, very well done. Totally different approaches,
Yeah.
and yet very informative, and I thought that that was a good part. It was, the part I liked about it was that it was obviously, you, John, were in the game. He was, you were out there, you had your signs, you had your flyer, you had all that social stuff, whatever that is, that social media stuff. You can explain that to me later.
Okay.
Because I have,
I have a
don't know what that's
website,
about.
yes. I have a
Yeah, he's
website.
got the website and all the rest.
And, I got more hits to that website than people voted
Oh, I'm
today.
sure, yeah. That's
I got 1,120 hits to that website.
fantastic.
When I saw that, I thought, this is
And those people
beautiful.
did everything
That's the
but
way to
vote.
go.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess if they didn't like what they read, all they read was that, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
No, that was a good handout. Very nice.
when
And
Joe.
you hoped it was, because I know it's an expense.
Oh, yeah, the printing and the postage. And when Joe comes, I need to find out how he managed for me not to get one of his flyers. Because I didn't get one.
I didn't get one either.
Well, mine says,
Oh
do
my
not
God,
deliver
that's so
to
funny.
John Texera.
Okay.
Says it right on
maybe
it.
that's
Don't
what
give
it
it to John
Do that.
Texera.
Because
didn't
I'm
get one
sure he
either.
got mine.
Or Pat Riley.
You got mine.
You didn't get one either, Pat?
No.
No, did you get one of these?
Well, she did,
None of the
I
selectmen
didn't
got it.
get either one.
Joe's got a little credibility
You didn't
gap.
get it?
Don, Marie didn't get any, I got two.
Well, then you got hers. You got hers.
You know, one of my biggest fears, it's quite a process too, the printer who did that, you have to go into the.
Are they the same printer?
I don't know where he got his, I know where I got mine. But you go in and you see, I think there were 7 or 8 different routes in Rainham,
Yeah.
okay? And each of the flyers have to be segregated by route and in bundles of 100 that are shrink wrapped in each of those routes and so forth. And my biggest fear was, I thought, is somebody going to find a pile of these
Yeah,
in a
somewhere.
trash bucket somewhere where one of the middlemen says, I'm not putting these in every
With your
single
sign
one."
with the bullet
Well,
holes in your eye.
because I know people who didn't get them. Carol, did you ever get one?
Carol.
Did you ever get one of my flyers in the mail? It was, yeah, you did? Was it you or Becky?
didn't.
Becky did. I knew one of you didn't get it, so I don't
No,
understand
Becky
that.
wouldn't
That's
get one.
interesting how that would be. We got
It is interesting,
got
because
I 6,014 flyers. That's the number of residential
box holders.
mailboxes and post office box, everyone but businesses.
And Becky didn't get
I
John's
didn't
either?
get John's either.
And you know what's interesting, we talked about growth and so forth.
Yeah.
When I first sat down with the printer and we went online to the U.S. Postal Service, it was 586. 2 weeks later, when he was putting it all the final thing, it was 6,014. Just to show you what the growth was in the matter of 2 weeks in our town.
What a growth spurt that was.
Yeah,
Wow.
I guess somebody went out there with a lot of occupancy permits.
We better get some numbers pretty soon, or everybody's gonna go to sleep.
My company's gonna go home if I don't get back there.
Yeah, yeah. What
I'm
a-
a lousy host.
Well, while we have a moment, public service announcement.
Okay.
May is coming up very quickly.
Yeah.
And we have a Memorial Day parade that's coming up the
Yes.
Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, May 25th. Everybody needs to plan to put that on your calendar. Stepping off at 10 o'clock and
And that's just
retired
next
Chief
week,
Peter
Pat.
King.
Isn't that just next week?
No, it's a couple weeks, Don. The 25th, not the 5th,
Oh,
the
May,
25th.
May.
May 25th.
It had me.
And
Yeah.
Peter King, retired police chief, is our parade coordinator, so we will definitely step off at 10 o'clock sharp. Same route, forming at the Merrill and La Liberty, come down Pleasant Street through the Four Corner intersection, which will be decorated with many, many flags, and then along South Main Street in front of the Town Hall, which also will be decked out in red, white, and blue. Down South Main Street, take a right onto King Philip Street, and then concluding at Gazebo Park, where we'll have a really nice ceremony, as we always have. So hopefully,
Those are
we'll have a
always
great
well done.
turnout.
Always well done.
We always have a great.
Who runs that, though? does
It's
that?
Rave that coordinates
is
that.
Rave.
It's Rave
So it's
coordinates that. I'm one of the members, yeah. There's a group of people. Sandy Leahy is co-chair of that, along with this year we have a new co-chair, Chris Buckley, who is a veteran, a dad of a couple kids in the Rainham schools, or the high school, and he is co-chairing that with Sandy this year. We got a good working committee. We had our first meeting, by the way. The next parade planning meeting will be not this coming Monday, but the following Monday at 7 o'clock at Merrill School.
Well,
We have
besides the
police and fire
that other
involved.
committee, you're real
See,
busy.
Marcia?
Police and fire involved, and we have Kevin Marrero with our search team helping out with that. Our BR band is already committed, our Rainham Middle School band and chorus, so it'll be a great parade again.
That sounds good.
We have some results, drum roll.
Is this the final?
This
I
is
believe it is, yes.
final.
But Marcia wants that back when you're done with it.
Oh, my.
Drum roll, please.
Gotta be official if the town clerk wants it back.
This is final.
Is this a final?
Final. Because it's final. 1,069 total votes. All right, here we go. 4 selectmen. Joseph Pacheco, 694 votes. John Texera, 363 votes. Mr. Pacheco has been re-elected.
Yes, he has. And congratulations to Mr. Pacheco, wherever he is tonight.
Whatever town he's in, right?
Okay.
I didn't get my pen or anything.
And obviously, everyone else made it.
Yes. Assessor Michael Lally, 770 votes. Congratulations, Mr.
Michael.
Lally.
So much for the recount. Oh, that was a
You did.
terrible year, and
Good job, Michael.
I'm sorry I protested it that year.
Sewer Commissioner Jeff Kelleher was actually the top vote getter with 821 votes.
Interesting.
Planning Board, Russell Driscoll, re-elected with 754 votes. Bridgewater Rainham School Committee, Dr. Susan Prewandowski, 778 votes. And Bridgewater member Richard Florence with 788 votes. Park and Recreation Commissioner Christopher Shaw, 795 votes. And Cemetery Commissioner David Yell with 797 votes. A total of 1,069 total voters, and there
that
you
one-
Could I-
have it.
Number.
Could I ask you for those two numbers? Because when I get back home, everyone's
Yes.
going to know,
Can we
want to
run
know what
something
those
off on
numbers
that?
are.
600 to 300.
Michael, can you run something on that? Can you run off that for a couple?
Make a copy, some copies for us, Michael.
Yes, and what I will do is I will put them on the Facebook page
Okay.
in a moment as well.
What's the Facebook?
Well, thank you for hosting this. I have a house full of people I got to get back to, and
Thank
three
you very much for
bottles of
coming in.
champagne.
For the
And
courtesy of coming in.
congratulations of running a good campaign,
Thank
Joe.
You did
Thank
run
you.
an excellent campaign.
Thank you.
And you brought up some issues that I think people will pay attention to.
I hope the issues get addressed, if not by me, by someone.
Well,
And
you
you're
know,
going to stay involved, though, obviously, still
Oh,
on the
I-
planning board.
Still on the plan, do I have
Chairman of
another
the
year?
Council on Aging,
John,
definitely, and serving on
food-
our rave board. And the food basket,
pantry.
absolutely.
John, I just want to say, from this side of the table, or the dais, I hope that you stay engaged. I hope that you continue to, act, in a very, very aggressive way with regard to the town's issues. I think if the town had more people like you, we couldn't lose, So
Thank you.
I congratulate
Appreciate
you
that.
on all your effort. I really mean that.
Thank you.
You've
I
done a
appreciate
good
that.
job, and we need more people like you in the town.
Thank you very much. Good night, all.
Thank you very
John.
much for coming in, Joe. We appreciate the courtesy.
Yes, definitely.
Are we just about at the end of the rainbow then?
I think so. I think we're going to wrap it up here unless,
I think we've done our job. We
Yes.
paid our $2.
right. So again, thank you all. For anyone who turned out to vote, thank you so much for doing so. And for all of the people that have been re-elected, certainly for putting themselves out there. We appreciate it. That's what makes the town work. We need people to be involved for sure. And for Mr. Shavo, former selectman, Marie Smith,
Thank you.
current selectman, Don McKinnon, and myself, thank you for joining us
Current
here on
former selectman.
Saturday Night Live. And we will see you next year. Good night.
We'll see you at 8:05 next year. Thank you all very much.